Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
No, it is not Roger Stone. It is the Frankster, Frank Morano. You can normally hear me overnights across America on the other side of midnight. If you want to hear the podcast, if you like anything you hear, you can just search that, The Other Side of Midnight, on any podcast app. One of the people I've been lucky enough to chat with from time to time is Ted Wittmer. He's a historian, a librarian, and the author of several presidential biographies, including about Lincoln and about Martin Van Buren. Dr. Wittmer, it's great to talk with you. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Frank. Happy to be with you.
So I know that, everybody's been making the comparison to Grover Cleveland tomorrow because he was the first president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Several others had tried, including Theodore Roosevelt and including Martin Van Buren. Van Buren was known as a master political organizer. He was the architect of the Democratic Party, a New Yorker like Trump was. Do you see any parallels between Van Buren's ability to manage shifting political coalitions and how modern presidents, including Trump, navigate divided political landscapes?
Such an interesting question. I can't believe you're going to Van Buren instead of Lincoln.
Well, I'm going to get to Lincoln. I suspect Lincoln may require a longer answer, so I'm going to throw Van Buren at you first.
Well, yeah. I mean, Van Buren was coming up as governor of New York and vice president, then president, in a time of rapid political change and rapid demographic growth. So he was just trying to understand how quickly America was changing. And I think for the most part, he did a good job, except he was only a one-term president. He got voted out of office because of a financial panic. But right now we're in heavy change, and I don't think we quite know where it's going yet. I think obviously the Republican Party is very strong right now, but it has internal tensions just within its own party, and the Democrats, too, may be changing a lot in the next year or two. So it's a very unpredictable time.
You know, I have 2 minutes here, and I hope you can stick around with us a few minutes after we have to break. But in Lincoln on the Verge, another terrific book that you wrote about Lincoln's second inauguration, you described Lincoln's journey to Washington and how he framed his message to a fractured nation. How do you think a figure like Lincoln would approach the hyper-polarized, hyper-partisan environment that we see in the country today?
He would try to pull us back from it. Both of his inaugurals tried to calm things down and bring Americans together. And the first one ends with beautiful language calling on our better angels to see in the other side, even at a time of great anger, as the Civil War is about to begin, but to see the humanity of the other side and pull us back from the brink. And 4 years later, 750,000 Americans had been killed. I mean, talk about anger. And again, he called for charity, not malice, and outlined a policy of forgiveness. It was kind of like his first Reconstruction speech. So he was always trying to lower the temperature.
We're talking with historian Ted Wittmer. You also, Van Buren's presidency is often overshadowed, but he did set a few important precedents for how presidents manage crises, including the Panic of 1837. How do you think Trump's presidency might be viewed in terms of the precedents that it sets for executive power, either what we have already seen in the first term or what may be in store for the second term?
Well, he breaks the mold in so many ways. He communicates very differently. We don't usually see a long policy-centered speech from Donald Trump. We see, he speaks off the cuff in a way that is pretty impressive and pretty entertaining, but also sometimes it's very hard to figure out what the policies actually are.
You see that with TikTok now. Dr. Wittmer, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought if you can. We're going to continue with Ted Wittmer, historian, librarian, and author, in just a moment. This is the Rod Stone Show. Join in a moment as well. This is Frank Morano. We'll continue today.
This episode is brought to you by GMC. GMC certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands and participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit gmc.com/service to learn more.
Smartwater Alkaline with antioxidant. 9.5 plus pH, now in cans.
Refreshing.
Made for every way you move.
Should I run a marathon?
Let's start with finishing that water. Smartwater Alkaline with antioxidant, now in a sleek can. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Well, you're actually there, but since this is an historic occasion, I thought it might be appropriate to chat with a historian. So we're talking with Ted Wittmer, historian and author who's written a couple of great books. One, Martin Van Buren, which was part of the American President series, and an amazing book that was critically acclaimed and a bestseller called Lincoln on the Verge, 13 Days to Washington. And they're both available on Amazon. Dr. Wittmer, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Let's talk about the role of the media in shaping presidents. Both Van Buren and Lincoln lived in eras when the media was rapidly evolving, just as it's been in the last 7 or 8 years. I mean, it's difficult to imagine even 10 years ago TikTok being a factor in a presidential election. Now it's difficult to imagine a presidential election without TikTok.
Yeah.
How do you think these presidents would have adapted to a 24/7 news cycle and the impact of social media and social media's role in shaping public perception of leadership?
Pretty well, I think. They were both very intelligent. They were not very well educated. They were extremely smart in street smarts, and they had friends who worked for newspapers. And Van Buren was really good at figuring out ways to sort of lubricate the system to get state money or later federal money to sympathetic newspapers. And that wasn't looked down on at the time. Both parties did it, but he was very good at it. And Lincoln just, he was such a great shaper of language. He was never exactly a journalist, but sometimes he wrote anonymous things for the newspapers in Illinois, and he read them, and he was friends with editors, including in New York City. And so he just was very canny about getting his message out to people.
Van Buren was instrumental in formalizing the two-party system. Lincoln presided over the fracturing of the Whigs and the rise of the Republican Party. Given Trump's influence on remaking the Republican Party, for instance, when I say that, I mean, 10 years ago, if you would have met someone that was just a regular working class guy, didn't have a lot of money, maybe struggling to make ends meet, chances are pretty good, especially if they were a union member, that they were a Democrat. And if you met a super wealthy guy that belonged to a country club, was Ivy League educated, chances are pretty good that that guy was a Republican.
Right.
These days, it's almost the exact opposite, anecdotally, in my experiences. What do you think that we could be potentially witnessing another era of partisan realignment?
I do, actually. I think that's very predictive. I don't know where it's going to go, just like they didn't in the middle of the 1850s when the Whigs fell apart and the Republicans came up. But it does feel like things are changing very fast, including even, we're not even into tomorrow in the new presidency yet, but it feels like a rift is beginning between the MAGA Republicans and the Elon Musk billionaires. And they are quite different. I mean, they all got behind Donald Trump, but they are not the same as each other. So it will be very interesting to see where it goes.
On the eve of the Trump inauguration, do you feel any historical echoes from any of the periods you've written about? How does this moment compare to other contentious transfers of power in American history?
Well, you mentioned Grover Cleveland, so it's the only time except for Cleveland that a president who lost was able to win the following election and come back in, which is no small achievement. That's a big deal. I'm hoping we were talking about Lincoln a few minutes ago and how he always called for calm and unity. And I would love to see some of that. We had a very rancorous campaign, and it came from both sides, but I think it came a little more from the successful candidate. And I'd love to see us just come back together. It might be a kind of naive hope, but I think we're pulling at the strands a little too much, and I'd like to see the tapestry come back together for the good of the country.
Finally, and we've been talking with Ted Wittmer, and you could check out, again, Lincoln on the Verge, a terrific book that's a must-read. You've written vividly about Lincoln's humanity during his 13 days to Washington. This is one of those moments where I think everybody around Trump, including the fellow that we're about to talk to in a minute, Roger Stone, realizes they're a part of history and witnessing history as it happens. If you were to write about Trump's journey to his inauguration, how would you approach that as a writer, and what historical themes would you explore?
There are fascinating themes. I think they're hard for us to because he has shattered the mold in so many ways. Coming from a place of great wealth into the presidency is pretty unusual in our country's history. When you said the journey, I mean, I was thinking of Lincoln, but I also was thinking of that golden escalator ride down from the top of the Trump Tower, which I never would have thought that would work. That's like corporate America is not that popular, and New York City is not that popular in the rest of the country. I mean, I love it. You love it. But in the rest of the country, it's often a punching bag for things gone wrong and excessive governance and the homeless. And yet he comes from all of that. And somehow he spun a story that was persuasive to a lot of people. So it is fascinating. And I hope after, riding a populist wave and also attacking the left pretty ferociously, I do hope we come back together. I hope he leads us back together, but even if he doesn't, I hope somehow we come back over policies, over shared patriotism. We're all fellow Americans. So, you know, it's the beginning of a new day, and I'm hoping for a better America.
Well, I think that's something that is shared across the board. Ted Wittmer, thank you so much for the time. I hope we can chat again soon.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.